And that is what the S in S Pellegrino stands for. What's going on, everybody? This is the Coverbandconfidential podcast, the podcast for cover band musicians and band leaders to learn how to rock more and sec less. In Atlanta, Georgia, I'm Adam Johnson.
In Greensboro, North Carolina, I'm Dan Ray.
It stands for Stupendous Pellegrino.
I am not sure that's true, but I can't produce evidence to the contrary.
You're right. I lied. It's Supro, like the amps.
Oh, soup. And those guys were professionals at making soup. They were soup pros.
That's right.
And that's where the name came from.
Absolutely. But they had to change it. They had to make it just SU instead of SOU.
And if you think about it, the sparkling water is a kind of soup.
Yes. It's a very low ingredient soup.
Low ingredient, high carbon dioxide soup. So this is doing great so far.
Yes, and I mean, you just came back from, the happiest place on earth, so I would assume that your brain is full of magic and wonder, so you're ready to go down these rabbit holes with me.
That's how it is. You just, you see a thing and say it.
That's right. So how was it?
Super fun. I'd spent 3 days there with the family, and then they came home. I actually had a conference the beginning of the week, and so I stayed on campus there at Disney on my own for a day and a half and had some
chaperones,
solo doing my own thing time to do the things that my family doesn't want to do. I saw the Tiki Birds. I saw the Country Bears. I saw the Hall of Presidents. I walked around Tom Sawyer's Island, which is going away soon. First time I'd ever done that. And it's awesome. And I get why it has to go away.
Yes.
Super good. And then the second day there, I did a whole day drinking crawl across Animal Kingdom, which was fantastic, and met a bunch of 15-minute friends. And yeah, it was great. And then I went to a conference, and it was a very strange energy change to go to a work conference about real estate data after being at Disney for 4 days.
I'm surprised by that.
That the energy change happened?
Yeah. I mean, isn't real estate data also full of magic and wonder?
Well, I will tell you, that conference is kind of a party. What happened at this conference for the second time is those of us who go to it regularly, who play music, got thrown together as a band. And we actually did an hour and a half of cover music, never having rehearsed. We've known each other for a long time, me and John and Bill and Hud and a bunch of guys I've known from this thing who we've talked about our bands and stuff. But in the weeks leading up to it, we were talking about a set list and, looking through it. And I know all those, no problem. And one of the guys got sponsorship to pay for renting equipment for a band.
Yep.
And we played a whole show, and it was super fun. I got a chance to do some weird stuff. I did Psycho Killer, and I did Message in a Bottle, and then of course I drove us to the end through Superstition and played that funky music and had everybody up and dancing, because that's how I do. The rest of them are kind of arty sort of cover guys, and I throw it at them and make them dance. I'm bottom of the barrel, but it was a good time. It was a really good time, and people were impressed and had fun, and it was good. So that thrown in there among some really dry conversations about real estate data structures and standards, and oh man, brutal. But it was a fun conference, and so not that hard a shift out of Disney and into that, considering I knew all that was coming.
That's fair.
Yeah,
and I would say that you were missed, but I had a blast talking to Matt, working through that episode, and response for that was actually very surprising. I was a little concerned that it was pretty specific for a particular kind of person, but folks in the Patreon and just online were like, I really enjoyed that. It was a cool conversation. Like they were either like, this isn't my kind of music, but you guys seemed like you were having fun. Yeah. And other folks like, oh, I loved that band, or I love this band. And so that was a lot of closet emo folks out there that were voiced their approval of the conversation.
Yeah. And the week before, when you were at the beach, of course, Mikey and I talked about what audiences really care about, and we got great feedback off of that too. So always big thanks to Mike Schulte for joining us on those things. And 2 weeks has been so good to be back in the saddle.
We're just catching up,
yeah.
Hadn't seen each other, hadn't talked through some stuff. But speaking of Mike, I played a gig on Friday, and as we're prepping for the show, we're advancing and emailing with the production guy, and it's literally the day before, and he's like, quick question. And it's like the entire band's on this thread. He's like, he asked Nathan, our drummer, is like, "How do you know Mike Schulte?" Because
Huh.
he had found him on Facebook and saw that Mike was a mutual, and
Hmm.
I replied back, I was like, "Oh, that's my fault. Uh, I know him between this and this, and here's a picture of me and him." But he's a guy who lived in Cedar Rapids and moved to Atlanta recently, but like
Right on.
worked with was kind of in talks to like fill in for it, like to tech for him, because that's the kind of stuff that he does. He's a drummer. Um, but yeah, so I got to send a picture of me and this guy, and I was like, "Hey, Mike, the drummer from the Magneto says what's up."
That's cool.
So the world's small, man.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
So you want to get into like gig recap? I mean, you kind of already did yours.
Well, listen, I got a couple of things. We played a benefit gig. It was a walk for type 1 diabetes.
Okay.
Not for, against type 1, for to raise money to cure type 1 diabetes.
Yes, it wasn't to support type 1 diabetes.
Yeah,
Got
yeah.
it.
I had a friend who was like, it's a benefit. It's for cancer. It's like, oh, I can't support that. I'm against cancer. Similar thing. Anyway, it was a walk, and they did a bunch of rah rah cheering, whatever, and then everybody walked. And then by the time we were they were back from the walk and had gotten in their cars and driven home. And so, while it looked like there were a lot of people there before the walk, by the end of the walk, we were playing to kind of an empty, grassy amphitheater space. Half a dozen people
Showbiz.
there, really enjoying it, but the few hundred who were there before were long gone. So there were a few others around the corner drinking beer in a beer tent that was provided by a local brewery, and they were apparently dancing too, but we didn't see that. We treated it like a rehearsal because the fact is, we've been working really hard on this 80s business and not at all on the stuff that's kind of theoretically in muscle memory. And it was a good chance to be on a stage and do some rehearsal together. Um, we are coming up on a pretty intense week here. On Wednesday, we got our last rehearsal before the 80s gig, and we'll talk more about that later in the episode. Thursday night, I got a non-80s gig, just the New Strange, playing Halloween night at a bar on the main drag in Greensboro, where we did the last. We've done St. Patrick's Day there twice now, last
Got
2 years.
it.
So this is our first time there. Not St. Patrick's Day, third time there total. And it's a fun place. They get a lot of folks come in for special events there. I had a standing trivia there for a while that was fun. So that's Thursday, Halloween night. We're doing the 80s show on Saturday the 2nd. We'll be opening for ourselves as the non-80s band. And we're awful close to ready. We'll talk more about that as we get
Okay.
deeper into the episode. But yeah, intense week. We got one more rehearsal that we've just thrown together just to get over the hump of confidence. And yeah, then I think we've been working really hard. We might just take a bit of a breather after that for a week or something. I don't know.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Take a victory lap, and by victory lap, I mean just do nothing.
Yeah. Sleep for a Sunday instead of coming to rehearsal on Sunday morning. Yes.
Good plan.
Yeah.
Solid. So let's see. Mentioned that we did a live band karaoke gig. This was something that had been on the books for a little while. It was for a brewery called Reformation Brewing, which is a very big deal in this area. And they do this annual event called Cadence Fair. Cadence is one of the like the names of their beers. And it's like a big community event. It's all weekend, and like it's a family friendly deal. And they have this outdoor area that's just like amazing, like under this old oak tree with like the string lights. Like it's all vibes.
Cool.
So the situation was basically the PA was already there. We rolled up, did all of our systematizing. We had an hour to turn the whole thing over, which, just like it always is fraught with anxiety and barely coming down to it. But by God, we started actually before 8 o'clock, which was our projected start time. So
Cool.
felt good about that. Lots of new systems with this particular setup. We were down a man due to just availability, so I didn't have somebody to run the lyrics. And I didn't have anybody to run sign up. So I had to come up with a solution that allowed us to do that from the stage
Mm.
with not a lot of time because it came right down to the wire. So I went back and forth with I was talking with Arlo with Ben on with Band Helper about potential solutions and workarounds, and I was talking with Joey, our guitar player, about it. And initially, I was trying to figure out, okay, well, what if I set up Band Helper where it outputs the lyrics to our floor monitor wedge deal, and then shows the charts on the iPad. And that was a tough one because I could get it to do it in the opposite direction, but not the way that I needed it.
Huh.
So I reached out to Arlo, and Arlo was like, "Well, reverse those in order, like in the song info, and it should work." And I was like, "Is there any way to do this in mass?" He's like, "No, gotta do them one
Hmm.
at a time." So
Mm.
I started down that route, and I was like, "Okay, I found a solution." But the tricky part is that you can't scroll on the external screen when something else is showing on the main screen. You can auto scroll, but if like it needed to move and like there wasn't any way to do that
Oh,
manually.
all it can do is auto scroll. You don't have a finger to scroll it with on the main screen.
Exactly.
I gotcha. Yeah.
So in the end, I ended up just doing lyrics from my phone
Mm.
because the iPhone 15 has the output and it's already vertically oriented. I just connected it directly to the monitor, and that's what we used to do lyrics. And I was able to, for the most part, use the air turn and control the lyrics with my feet while I was playing guitar and singing, with the group. Sign up was a bit more of a challenge, and anybody in the Slack would know because about 4 hours before load in, I'm like, guys who do karaoke or requests, what do you use? And there were a few suggestions, but I ended up stumbling upon a service called, I think it's Request Now. It allows you to set up a landing page with your song list on it, and then people can text you their requests. And it gives you a number and a dashboard. And it's got a lot of really cool features. When a request comes in, it texts them back and confirms. It can also send a link to your Venmo for like tips and stuff. I didn't do it right, and I was deleting requests instead of like checking them off. So I don't think a lot of people got those because I didn't get any Venmo tips. But it is built in there. But there's also some additional features that it has, like you can send mass texts to the people who signed up later on. You can send like a boilerplate like thank you text message at the end of the event with all of your information and that kind of thing. But you can also do it outside of the context of the event. And they also have something called Memento, which is like an add-on where you can have people text the photos or videos that they're taking.
Mm.
And if you put them up on a display or like a TV, it will do like a collage of
That's
the
cool.
stuff that's coming in, and it does it in real time.
That's cool.
So I was able to talk with them kind of briefly because again, I was down to the wire. And it is a very cool service with some really cool features. The only rub is that it's $50 a month,
Mm.
which is pretty pricey. I am pretty confident though that if you are utilizing all of the features that are built into it and you actually know what you're doing because you're not trying to scramble at the last minute, you could probably make that money up and then some just from the service itself, because the
Yeah.
service itself, it worked flawlessly. The requests came in, it was easy to navigate and work through. The interface was dead simple. So I understand why they're charging what they charge, even though it is a lot. I don't know if I can necessarily justify it long term, but we've got a live band karaoke gig this month and I've got one next month. So I'm gonna continue to use that because I've already invested in it, but time will tell. So if you want to know more about that, check out Request Now. I think it's requestnow.io is their deal. And we'll put that in the show notes. Not sponsored, no affiliate links, no discounts or anything. Just, it was a thing that I found that I thought was pretty cool. There were a lot of other great recommendations, but this one felt like was kind of like an up and comer. and something worth looking into if you're in the market for a service like that.
That's good. Now, I to support my live acoustic karaoke and requests when I play live, I built an app of my own
Hmm.
that you should probably play with because it may be a solution. Now, there are some ways in which it's admittedly half baked. It only talks to monetization platforms in terms of my own accounts with them. So I would need to
Yeah,
pay you the money that gets paid to me for your tips.
yeah,
Um, that would need to get cleaned up to make it
sure,
really a product. But I think it's pretty good. The other place where it's very specific to my needs is that the song loading happens by way of an export from Band Helper. So that wouldn't be a
yeah,
problem for you. You could arrange that, but not everybody could. Um,
sure,
I'll get you hooked up. You can play with it before your next one. See if you think it might be a thing for you. But I know that the inability to take your PayPal config and pay you
hmm,
directly is probably if I were gonna turn it into a real product, that would be the first thing I need to do is to make it
yeah.
flexible in that way.
So Matt from the Dom to Longs he's a developer, and he developed one for them,
Mm.
and it's got feature set sounded very similar to yours, but I may have to pick his brain about that down the road. But yeah, it's not something that we've done before. Like it's very funny that as far as members only goes, we have never been a band that takes requests, and now we are putting ourselves in this situation where all we take is
All
requests.
requests, yeah. Yeah.
And it is, I mean, we pulled some weird ones out. We ended the night with Enter Sandman, and we'd
Mm.
never played that as a group before.
Nice.
We pulled out Mr. Brightside and a couple of others that like we've never played before. And with the exception of like one legitimate like massive train wreck, everything worked out great. And the chaos was fun
Yeah.
in a way that, it normally would make me, insane, but it was good. We keep getting these inquiries. We're going to keep doing this as a service, and I think it overall it's going to be a solid revenue stream for us, and we just got to continue to put our reps in, and we'll be able to stand and deliver on this for the rest of time,
There you
I
go.
guess.
There you
That
go.
was a horrible way to wrap that up.
It's
Um
alright. That works.
So Saturday was nothing. Kiddo was at a marching band competition, and they were supposed to be back at 11:30. They didn't get back until 1 a.m., which was
Mm.
most unfortunate because I was the one who had to pick him up. So I got home, and then my alarm went off at 5:30 because I picked up a church gig last minute, and it was in Noonan, which is an hour south of where I live, even on a Sunday morning where there is no traffic. But it was a bass gig, and it was for a friend of mine, and our guitar sub, who I hadn't seen in a little while, was the music director for it. So I was like, yeah, let's go. It was a lot of fun. I got a chance to play the $70 Talman bass that I bought and
Nice.
was like legitimately blown away. Even the MD was like, dude, you specifically are the person I point to when people ask about HX stomps. Every time you show up, it sounds amazing. Like that's a cool product, and you are a very good brand ambassador for it. And I was like, okay, but I mean, like this is literally one of the factory presets. It's the Mesa, base 400, just one that came from the factory.
Oh, man,
But
listen, tone is in the fingers. It's a take that compliment personally. You should.
I mean, I feel good about it, and it did like that bass sounds killer,
Mm.
and it looks cool, and yeah, I mean, no complaints. And it was so much so like I posted this on Threads, and it kind of like a lot of people chimed in. It was like the era of cheap gear that we are in right now is
It's crazy.
phenomenal.
Yeah.
The fact that I could take $500 worth of gear and play a fully professional gig, it wasn't even like I made do. Like it was perfect for what I needed it for.
Yeah.
You couldn't do that with cheap gear 10, 15 years ago.
No.
The manufacturing has gotten so good. And granted, like the bass that I was playing retails for $250. I mean, that's still cheap. It's just not $70 cheap.
Yeah,
But
and
yeah, it was
it's software and
modeling and hardware and all of that jazz.
it's just the barrier to entry has come so far down.
Yeah. And so for folks getting started, like it's really, really cool because it's so much more accessible than it used to be.
Right.
And yeah, I think that's a good thing. So don't neglect going to pawn shops and seeing what they've got. No, I'm serious.
No, totally.
There's gonna be some clunkers, but every once in a while, you're gonna get some crazy stuff. And the weird thing is, like, even price-wise, like, that pawn shop that I go to is not known for, like, crazy deals usually because they carry a lot of high-end stuff. That's a pawn shop where you can buy, like, a legit Rolex, and they've got these wild guitars back there. Like, they had an original Steinberger, like a Newberg GR that they wanted $4,000 for. So
Sure.
it's not, I mean, it's not just cheap stuff, but
Right.
what they buy is good. Like, that's really what it is. It's well curated, and I think they were just overflowing with inventory. They were, like, trying to get rid of some stuff, and so, like, yeah, we'll sell this for, like, they probably paid the guy $50 for it and made $20 off it, and it's out of the store. So sometimes those opportunities present themselves, and you get a killer deal for
That's right.
stuff. So do it. And let's see. That's it for this week. We don't have any other gigs until I think the 11th of November. That's the frat party live band karaoke thing that starts
Fun.
at 11 p.m.
Oh, not fun.
Yeah, yeah. I feel old already.
Yeah.
But hopefully with all these new systems and setups and stuff, it'll go smoothly. And the only thing that I'll be out is a couple hours of sleep.
11 to 2, something like that?
I think it's 11 to 1. God, I hope it's 11 to 1.
All right. Yikes.
Either way, it'll be fine.
My Halloween night party on Thursday is 8:30 to 11, and that feels late.
Yeah. I think we did 8 to 11 on Friday. And I mean, and like we were playing to like practically nobody by the end because again, it was a municipal kind of family outdoor deal. So folks were going home.
Right.
But it's fun.
Ah, good.
You know what else is fun? This week's review.
Ooh, let's hear it.
This one came in through Spotify. And I've noticed that recently there's been a lot of new folks that are just now finding the show. And the really cool part is that a bunch of them joined Patreon the past week. We had like 4 new signups.
Yeah, awesome.
And most of them were like, I found you guys within the last like couple of months, which is crazy.
Yeah.
And I had another one of those things where I ran into somebody who was like, oh, I do this, like, oh, I have a podcast. And they're like, oh, how many are there? I was like, oh, like I think
400.
Well, next week I think is it 250 or 350?
Could be 350.
Yeah. So, and he gave me this look, like his eyes got as big as, saucers.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, oh yeah. If you like this, I'm very sorry. This is all you.
Yeah.
This is all you have for the
go down the rabbit hole with us, and we'll see you at the end.
So this comes from Steve, and he says, just wanted to say how much I'm enjoying the podcast, guys. My name is Steve, and I've just put together a new cover band after a 25-year gap.
Awesome.
Obviously, a lot has changed since then, and I am running to catch up. You guys are really helping me on my path. We are only a few rehearsals in so far, but are looking to get out gigging as soon as we are ready. Keep up the good work, guys. Steve from Crawley, UK. And I did look. I think Crawley is south of London. Okay. So it's in the south of England. He won't be close to me when I when I go to York in a couple of weeks. But still hoping that some British listeners reach out and we can go do something.
Hit the pub.
Get a meetup going on or something.
Yeah.
If you want us to say your name and where you're from, leave a review.
There you go.
It's the best way to do it. Okay. Dan, you had something you wanted to talk about this week, and I think it's just like it's a good thing to consider. I mean, really all the time, but especially
and look,
in the new. Steve will know, yeah.
Steve from Crawley gives us an exact way in, right? Like Steve's looking to gig as soon as we're ready. Those are his words. As soon as we're ready.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking to gig as soon as I'm ready. I have something booked for Saturday for this new 80s project. And as soon as we're ready, by God, I'll gig. No, there's a date on the calendar, and that date's coming whether I'm ready or not.
Yes. I mean, soon is soon.
Soon, less than a week. Yes.
Yeah. The date is approaching whether you are ready or not.
Exactly. And we've been working really hard. We've been for the last 3 or 4 weeks, we've been doing 1 to 2 rehearsals a week. And I've been refining the tracks and refining the mix, and a lot of work has gone into that. We don't have a full show. We're going to open for ourselves, which was something we talked about a few feet away from where you're sitting right now.
Yes, in the Meat Space
When
episode.
I was there in the Meat Space episode, and I am going to have the higher stress part of the night go last. You had some thoughts about that, and I appreciate them, but I'm not doing what you said.
I
And
believe
so
we call that being an asshole.
exactly, I was looking for advice that I didn't take. But so the question then is, as we approach this date, and as we approach putting ourselves on this particular tightrope, how confident is confident enough? That's the question. And as we have been rehearsing, it's been all three of us in this power trio with tracks. We've all worked with clicks and tracks before, but it's been a good long time for a lot of us. And so getting those habits and chops and listen, the sort of the environment of listening that includes a click that can drive you has been a habit to build that we haven't had. And that's been the main work of this rehearsal time. And so the question is like, how close to perfect, how close to I'm 100% sure that when we go on downbeat, it's going to be great all the way to thank you, good night. How close to perfect does it need to be for me to be willing to put it on stage?
It's a great question.
I have had shows where what we had was on lock and so well drilled and so much in muscle memory that there was 100% confidence.
Mhm.
Like, no question at all that what we're going to do is going to be great, or at least true to what we do. I don't have that much confidence for this show on Saturday. I don't. I would say I am 75 to 80% confident that what's going to happen is going to be great. I'm sure there will be train wrecks. I think I could probably even tell you what songs the train wrecks will be in. I have a button on Band Helper that I can bail out of the track if we need to, and I can just finish the song without the track if we need to. And we're prepared for that. That's
Yep.
an eventuality for any tune. We are ready to we'll just raw dog it to the end of the,
Yeah.
Um, and so the question is, are you someone who can put your band on stage for the first time? And I'm asking myself, and I'm asking Steve Crawley, who can put yourself on a stage without 100% confidence. And I am growing in the confidence that I'm beginning to trust that less than 100% confidence is fine. And that in fact, the audience is not going to notice. I recorded our rehearsal on Sunday, which because of life circumstances, we did not get all the way through the set.
Mhm.
Um, but when I listened back to it and made a really like very raw mix down of it without the click, the places as we were playing that I felt like, oh my God, we're losing it, get back on the click, that whole experience. I don't hear that when I'm listening to it. As an audience member, not hip to the click that's happening, I'm
Mhm.
unaware of our having lost the rhythm. I can't hear it at all. It sounds great, actually. And
Hmm.
so I feel like there's a lot, it ties in with a lot of what we talked about and what Mike and I discussed a couple of weeks ago. Like, what does the audience care about? Precision to the click? Absolutely not that. Audience doesn't hear the click. Audience doesn't know. So I feel like there's once again the barrier of quality is way lower than most of us who are playing really know or think or care about. And so for folks like me, for folks like Steve from Crawley, consider that you're ready long before you think you're ready. And that, your performance and what the audience is going to take away is going to be way better than your assessment of yourself.
Yeah, and the thing that struck me is that you said that you were like 80% confident. Like, that's a passing grade,
Oh, yeah. C's get
you
degrees.
know?
Yeah.
And I mean, that's a low B.
Yes. Right.
And I think that our confidence is kind of irrelevant
Right.
to a degree.
Yep.
Now, I'm not saying that confidence doesn't matter because people who are confident on stage, like, that reads.
So that's the thing. That's the thing. If 80% is like, oh my God, no, we're not there, that's completely going to come across.
Yeah, you wear that.
But if 80% is like, damn, we've done great work. Look at us go. That's a whole
Yeah.
different show. That's a whole different show.
Well, and the energy around that is actually probably more entertaining than the alternative, because
Yes. Yes.
if you're 80% and then you hit like 92%, everybody's kind of looking around at each other going like, "All right." And so that like excitement and that,
Yeah.
energy is palpable to the audience. And so they see you being excited. That's a good vibe. That's a
For
vibe that
sure.
is
For sure.
worth sharing with other people.
And by the way, low confidence moment in the show is actually a really great piece of show. In a previous band, I used to do a thing where we would take one song and not rehearse it and do it the very first time on stage and announce that. Like this is we call it tight roping. We're tight roping this song. We haven't rehearsed it. This is the first time for this one. Here we go. And the people who came to our shows regularly kind of started to learn that there was going to be that and knew that there was something exciting happening right there. So a moment of low confidence, even when announced publicly, kind of became a focal point in a moment, and getting through it, even if it was a little messy, was great. It was a win.
Well,
So
yeah, I think that's one of those things where you're including the audience in something,
right, right,
where it's like you're experiencing something that has never happened before,
yep,
and there's an element of danger to it. But by announcing it and kind of like approaching it that way, you have introduced this level of fun that it really doesn't matter. You kind of win either way,
right,
because if it goes well, then you nailed it, and if it goes totally to hell, you've already set the expectation
right,
that it could go bad.
yeah. And you were
So
here for that. You have that
right.
story now.
So it's interesting because this actually popped up on the Slack today.
Yeah.
Alex Landers from Mitch and the Melody Makers, they do this thing apparently only on their Halloween show,
Mm,
and they refer to it as the wheel, and
right,
it's basically like it's one of those spinny game show wheels, and it's basically just like a direction on how to perform the song. So they know the song that they're going to play, but then they spin the wheel about how it's going to be done. So they've got a halftime one, they've got a double time one.
hmm
Then there's one called the haunted guitar, which is a guitar that's got a MIDI pickup set to a preset called Scats and Bops,
mm,
where when you play it, it's going skibbity deep bop beep beat it, whatever that is.
yep,
That is one of those things that it had never occurred to me. Like I've definitely been to shows where we're gonna do a song in the spot.
yeah,
When I remember I was in high school, there was this band called Lucky Boys Confusion. They were like a touring punk band, and they ended up doing a reggae song about mullets that had a thrash chorus, and it was stupid and sounded like
loved it.
hot garbage,
Yeah,
but it
but
was a
you
lot of
loved it.
fun.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was 17 years old. I'm talking about it now, 20
yeah,
some odd years, yeah,
yeah.
nearly 30 years later.
You
So
loved it.
listen, you could be confident that it's going to come off the rails. That's still confidence.
Yeah,
I don't know. Confidence is relative. Yes, that's the word I was looking for. Relative.
yeah. Yeah, and including the audience in your lack of confidence is actually it's a baller move.
Yeah, it's endearing.
Yeah, right.
It's a cool concept because you're kind of imbuing this mutual trust on each other,
Mhm. Yep.
because you are showing them trust by presenting something that you aren't sure is going to work. And then they are trusting you that what you are doing is going to be entertaining. And so it kind of builds this thing that
Yeah.
honestly, like, this is just making me want to like dick around more.
I know.
And the control freak in me is like literally like rattling its cage right now
Mhm.
in my head. But it does kind of sound like fun. And I think the whole live band karaoke thing, I think, is knocked something loose where I was like, yeah, if something goes kind of half cocked, who cares?
She'll
The
end.
song
We'll get
starts, the
paid.
song ends.
Song
No, it's not
ends.
even the show ends. It's the song ends.
Song ends. Yeah.
Then you're on to the next one.
Yeah.
Man, we should have had this conversation like, I don't know, 20 years ago. I
Right.
probably wouldn't be so demented.
Yeah.
But as they say, hindsight's 2020,
There you go. There you go.
Well, I'm out of bourbon.
And I'm out of things to talk about.
Cool. Well, then I guess we nailed it. So If you have any good examples of confidence being not present, but you absolutely crush something, or some unmitigated disaster happens, or something fun and spontaneous happen, let us know about it. Coverbandconfidential@gmail.com. Shoot us a DM on socials. How do you prepare for things when you aren't prepared enough or feel that you're not prepared enough?
Yep.
The world needs to know. Share your story with us. All right. It's good to have you back, man.
Yeah, it's good to be back.
And you're not going to notice this in the episode because I'm very good at editing, but it takes a little while to get the rhythm back, you know?
Yeah, I mean, we've been on the road a bit, so we'll figure it out.
Hey, we're professionals. We get back on that horse. We're going to crank another one of these episodes out next week.
300 something of them, we'll figure it out.
Dude, I think it's 350.
Yeah.
Is that the paper anniversary, like silver, wood?
Yeah.
What do we get?
Plastic. I don't know.
Probably
sporks.
It's the binary.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah. Fidget toy anniversary.
Yes, we will. We're going to go ahead and cut it now. You guys don't need to hear the rest of this. Anywho, in Atlanta, Georgia, I'm Adam Johnson.
In Greensboro, North Carolina, I'm Dan Wright.
You've been listening to the Coverband Confidential podcast for the week of November 1st, 2024.